Chris and Kim from DNR, I'm just going to repeat so they can hear you. And Paula, great. Paula Vargas from DCJ is here as well. And so if you hear us repeating questions or repeating comments, certainly understand that there's some people here in the room with us.
Absolutely. And I am just so happy that people are able to join us in person. I am sorry that I am not there, but just to be mindful of time and the items that we want to cover, we're going to go ahead and get started. So with your permission, I'm going to share my screen one more time and we will get started. Sunny will be in the background answering questions and hollering when I need to stop. But just to get started, my name is Cecilia Hemley. I am the product manager for the Drupal content management solutions here at Tyler, Colorado. My pronouns are she, her. I am wearing a lavender blouse and I am Black with kinky coily hair and glasses, and all of my accessibility needs have been met. To that end, I know that's my long introduction, but sometimes it's necessary. So for you, if you needed to have the transcription, if you click on the little ellipses at the top of your screen, you should be able to access the accessibility tools for this Microsoft Teams Office. And without further ado, we're going to get started. 1 second here. Just as a reminder, if you had any questions or concerns or wanted to provide us with any feedback, we have a few vehicles to do that. One of them is our CMS website, and that is cms.colorado.gov. Additionally, you could reach us at partner support at www.colorado.gov. That is our partner support ticketing system. Additionally, this session will be recorded and will be available to all after the video gets rendered. And a little bit of housekeeping, just make sure that we make space, but also that we take space and we are mindful of others. I know that we have had wonderful meetings with OIT and we have learned some meeting etiquette. So when answering, just say, hey, this is Cecilia, I am from Tyler, as an example. So with your permission, we're going to progress through these slides. This is our loose agenda. We're going to talk about the Drupal 10 timeline. This is the upgrade that is scheduled for the end of November. We're going to talk about platform functionality and updates that happened since our last PUG. And we're going to talk about the training and support schedule for the Drupal 10 upgrade. And then we're going to open the floor for questions and for answers. Just so that you know, we have representation of all levels of our company. We have Dave, I have Alexa in the room. There's all of the project managers, and we also have our development team in the meeting. So to jump right into I think the most awaited question for this particular PUG is the Drupal 10 upgrade timeline. And right now, I don't want to read the entire slide to you, but the development for the Drupal 10 is wrapping up this week. So Friday is when stage will be ready. And I know that people are not sure what that looks like, but what that means to us is that starting the week of October the 2nd, we are able to add sites to the staging environment. This is not necessary, but we have had a handful of entities and partners reach out to us expressing a want or a desire to be in the staging environment so they can have access to the new layout content type and to look at what rows and cards look like in Drupal 10. Now, as far as training and support, after 2 weeks after today, we will start training sessions. These training sessions will be scheduled every other week, starting in October, all the way through the end of first quarter 2024. And if we needed to extend those beyond March, we're happy to do so. These sessions have already been scheduled in Microsoft Teams because that is the platform that we use at Tyler. And these will be recorded and available just like we do with the PUG meetings. I think there is a question.
Can you hear me?
Cecilia?
Yes.
So there's a different invite that's in the calendar. So there's like 30 people on a different call. So
Yeah.
I just came from that call. Did this already start? Are you like 10 minutes into this presentation?
No, we're not. We're just getting started, Francie. You're not missing anything.
Okay, good, because we were all missing it.
Yeah, we were all in the
other meeting
that was on the invite that was sent. So that's why this was so empty.
Well, I do apologize for any confusion this might have caused. Sunny, can I task you with figuring out if there are still individuals in some other meeting? Could you look at the meeting invite and make sure that we get everybody over to this one?
Yeah, Alexa also set a fresh invite to that chat, so people are starting to spill in.
Okay, so we're going to pause and allow for people to come over. I'm not certain how that happened, but I do apologize. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Oh my goodness, look at that. We're lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, we were all at the wrong meeting. The wrong meeting was in the, or a wrong link was in the meeting invite. So there's about 40 of us on another meeting.
Yeah, and I do apologize for that. I wonder if it was the first of the training sessions, which is next week. All right, so we're going to do this all over again. We're going to run through those slides rather quickly, but again, I do appreciate you guys being here. For those who do not know me, I'm Cecilia Hemley. I'm the product manager for the CMS Drupal Content Management Solution. I'm not going to do my long introduction, but we were just going over the timeline for the Drupal 10 upgrade. Do you think we are at capacity to continue? Do we have a lot of people in the waiting room? I show 50 people at this meeting, plus the individuals in the brick and mortar space in the Rhino conference room. Okay. All righty. If we have questions at the end, we could circle back. But what I would do is, with your permission, I'm going to share my screen again. All right. Can you guys see my presentation slide? Thank you. Alrighty, we were talking about the agenda, and then we were going over the first item in the agenda, which were the timeline. I'm hoping this is displaying correctly. This is not displaying correctly for me. One moment. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so we talked about the stage being ready at the end of this week, which will be the 29th, which means that on the 2nd of October, we will be able to add the sites that are our evergreen sites onto the staging environment. And then per request, we can add more sites, which is not necessary for us to have a staging site before we push all of the sites to production. But there have been about 5 or 6 different agencies that have requested that their sites be put into the staging environment for Drupal 10. And as soon as we are prepared, we're going to notify those entities directly as to when they're going to be going live. And I will be reaching out to you specifically. As far as training and support, 2 weeks from today, we will start having bi-weekly training sessions to teach you guys all about the layout, which is the new content type. These sessions will be recorded and available to all. The production release will be a phased rollout that starts on the 23rd. Okay, and the end of that will be November 20th. So what this means is that for those who have their site in the staging environment, if depending on, is there another question?
No.
Okay, we will have this phase rollout going out. All right, I'm going to advance the slide. For those of you who are used to Drupal 9 paragraphs, rows, and cards, this is the back end. And I wanted just to have a side-by-side comparison as to what paragraphs in Drupal 9 would look like and what paragraphs in Drupal 10 would look like. And I think that you could just see that they're exactly the same. This is a content that I created on a brand new Drupal 10 site, and it looks exactly like the content on the Drupal 9. This is rows and cards. Nothing has been deprecated. All of your publishing features here on the right-hand side, your menu settings, URL redirects, none of this has been deprecated. It all has moved over to Drupal 10.
Cecilia, this is
Yes.
Dave. Let's pause here, and I just want to kind of make sure before we get into any more detail about that, because, you know, I don't want there to be any confusion. I know working with all of you and all of our users, we really want to kind of slow down here for a second. There's a lot of anticipation around the D10 upgrade. The upgrades in the past are always an event. It's a big opportunity to improve the platform and grow, but it's a hurdle that has to be cleared right before that can happen. So first and foremost, we appreciate everybody's patience as we've worked to develop the D10 upgrade. We feel good about where it is and where we're working on it to get it completed. And then this October month of training and stage opportunity, and then ultimately a phased rollout, are all things that we're hoping will be a better experience for implementing the upgrade. A little bit more time to learn about the new features, a little bit more consistent communication. We are technically also able to do a phased rollout instead of one, you know, mass hustle in the middle of the night over the weekend kind of thing. So we're excited about that, but I appreciate that this all still can feel a little bit intimidating. I really want to call back to Cecilia's last slides here, where she was toggling back and forth with rows and cards. Is some confusion that I think we didn't help ourselves with is we really want the experience before D9 and after D10, or sorry, excuse me, on D9 and after D10, for you to be as similar as possible, so that affords you the opportunity in production to learn D10, learn its capabilities, notably this layouts feature that we're going to talk about in greater detail. Many of you are familiar with what is coming, so that you have an easement, if you will, to learn that new functionality before something is changed. So I do want to be clear, rows and cards will be going away in 2024 at some point, because it's not core to Drupal 10. But that is not something that is related to the D10 upgrade. Okay, so in other words, you should be able to get in there, manage your site as you have, and have time in production to say, okay, I'm going to learn layouts, I'm going to move my content over on time. That is not something that has to happen before the upgrade. So that to me was a big thing that we want to make sure that everybody understood, is when we think about the burden to you about the upgrade, is you will, as we develop that rollout schedule, we'll communicate with you on when your site will be going live and make sure that works for you. And then we'll make sure that the training opportunities get you comfortable with what will be there in D10. But we also don't expect that, you know, when the upgrade goes live, that you need to jump in there and somehow learn the new system and figure out how to make it work for your site to render correctly on D10. That shouldn't be the case. Does anybody have questions about that? I do have one here in the room from Becky D.
This is Becky. So I actually have 2 questions. Provide us with a list of the dates that each site is going to be going over the Drupal 10, because I know that it's handled site by site, not agency by agency.
Yeah, and ideally we'd have that ready today, but we don't have that fully set out, and our team's kind of working on figuring out, okay, how's this going to work? Because it's different than we did it last time, again, in a good way, and that we can do it throughout the day, and we don't have to necessarily take things down in the dead of night. But that's absolutely what we'll set out, and hopefully make that work for you. So I know we've had some people who are like, I don't want to go first, or we have other things going on. Particularly our high intensity users. So the idea is that we could hopefully say, hey, this is what we're planning. Does that work for you? Again, shouldn't be too burdensome for you, but we'll set that out. So I think in the next week or so, we should be able to define that schedule. So when we put up there the 23rd through the 20th, 23rd of October to 20th, that's not exact. Like, we don't have that dead to rights locked down, those are the dates. That's the window in which we'll plan on doing the rollout. If we can do it in a shorter time frame, great. But hopefully that'll work for everybody.
There is a question from Scott.
Hang on just a second, Cecilia. Becky's got a follow-up.
Oh, sorry.
Can folks migrate their entire site all at once?
Right. So Cecilia and Barry, from a technical perspective, when you talk about layouts, can you address how the migration will go when you do, not for the upgrade, but when you do take your content and put it into layouts, what that work might look like? So maybe when we're going to talk about layouts here in a little bit, we can address.
We can't hear what's going on in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dave, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
I'm repeating the question. The question was, if can we move? How does the migration of content from rows and cards into layouts work? And we will come to that when we're talking about layouts here in a little bit.
Yes.
I understand there were other questions. Cecilia, do I identify the other questions on the call?
Sunny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see a hand raise for Scott.
Yeah, Scott had his hand raised.
Hi, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just beyond the rollout, I know that we've heard a few things about how the rows and cards will persist for a while, so that'll give us some time. But how will we know, or when will we be informed as to when that will end, so we can kind of make better plans going forward as far as projects are concerned? Do we know when the rows and cards are falling away?
So we don't. I'll take that just real quick. We don't have the exact dates, and it's not going to be immediately imminent right after D10 upgrade. What we're really trying to do is make sure that the D10 upgrade is deployed, help with the training and support of using that, and then we can address how we're going to phase it out in 2024 and provide everybody with sufficient time to make sure that they've learned D10, learned layouts, and move the content to layouts.
Okay, so the intention is to keep us well informed of what the progress is.
Yeah, well informed, the training and the time. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that is the intent, if I may say, to have these bi-weekly open conversations with me and the rest of the Drupal team. And these conversations are not going to substitute the power users group, but it's intended to be a collaboration session in which you could bring questions about what you're working on layouts, and we could work those through. So again, this is not the only communication that is going to go out. We have reached out to community members, and we understand that training looks different for different individuals. So that's why we are offering this high frequency of touches to make sure that you feel comfortable with the layout content type.
Cecilia,
Do
we have another
Yes.
question in the group.
Kristen Kim, CMS. So thank you, Dave. I hear you say that transition to D10 is not the transition from cards and rows that will happen later in 2024. The transition from D9 to D10, essentially from a self-serving perspective, you all essentially take care of for us. And then the question is, for the transition in layouts to no longer using rows and cards, do you all again take care of that price, or are we the ones manually switching page by page?
Yes.
So we're going to, I'll just repeat the question, it's similar to Becky's question, which is when the time comes to move content from rows and cards to layouts, which can be upon D10 in production, or worst case before rows and cards is deprecated at some point in the future, and ideally after timing and training and so forth. That lift is the who's doing that work is the question, and the answer is ultimately it's going to be the work of the content managers. I've got another question from Becky Dean.
So to clarify,
That's so Barry or Cecilia, do we know when it comes to actually moving content from rows and cards into layouts, if there's anything other than the content managers moving it page by page?
There isn't a systematic way of doing it because it is a new content type. So what we're hoping to do is to train you. And Barry, if I'm missing something, do let me know. But the conversations that I have had with the Drupal team is that this new layout content type is the core for the future. So rows and cards is not part of Drupal 10. So there isn't a systematic way, like when we had organic groups and we went into multi-sites that we had a script to go over, that is not available to us. So what we are hoping to do is to train you and empower you to interpret what you have in rows and cards in something called sections and content blocks.
Yep.
Yes.
And Barry, any other comments on that from your perspective?
So just let me clarify. rows and cars are not like going away, like Dave was saying, immediately, right? So with the training, you know, that's going to help you understand the layout, and
Mhm.
we're more than help you understand layouts. But yeah, as far as like any cards or rows and cars that were there, that would be a manual process at this time. Alfredo and myself and the Droop and Amanda will look into how to bring some of that over at this point eventually, but we're not there right now. So like Dave said, there's no expiration date on the rows and cards at this point in time. We're
So,
just
yeah, let's address this question just big picture. And I think this is what we were trying to do for today is I appreciate where I can hear the concern in people's voices. I can appreciate the projected, you're trying to scope the projected work of moving the content from one function, rows and cards, to layouts. And that is in the CMS platform. That is work that'll need to be done. We'll be able to come back and scope that out and help you understand what that looks like, the time frame for rows and cards. And then if there are any other ways that we can help facilitate that beyond just training and support, if there's other ways that we can use technology to help ease that, we'll work on that. We just have been focused on D10 and getting that upgrade done, which is what we've been prioritizing for today and for October. Cecilia, you have the questions there and that people are asking, or if other hands are up?
Yes. Sunny, do you know who had their hand first?
Corey has his hand up.
Go ahead.
Hi, Cecilia, it's Corey from Dola. I just want to, I'm sorry, guys, I just need confirmation so I know what's going on here. So we're going to have to, in essence, migrate our sites at some point from rows and cards to like a layout concept. Is that correct, Cecilia?
That is correct. That is
Okay,
correct.
cool.
But we
So-
don't have a date or time in which we're going to deprecate that. But the answer is yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. And how long of a time frame will we have? So like, obviously you're not going to say, oh, it's next week, right?
No.
And the reason I ask you this is the teams that you folks are thinking are going to do this work are currently working on, at least at the state, on the IT accessibility project and doing
Mhm.
massive amount of work. So we really need to know sooner than later timing. I'm not speaking for everyone at the state, but I'm saying to you that this is a real, we really would probably need, I can't speak for anyone else, I would need at least 6 months. Cecilia, that's what I would need, at minimum 6 months. And that would require me to bring in a bunch of web editors, train them up on what you're going to show us, and then do that work. And one thing I think we did in 6 months might not be enough, because again, these people are all, we don't have content managers. We have people that it's other duties type of thing. And so
Yeah.
this is going to be something that, like, I was here for the last time, and to be frank with everyone here, this sounds exactly like the last time what we'll have to do, which is not a bad thing. It's just, we definitely need the time to do it. That's all.
So yeah, let me just chime in there. So the last time, which was an actual change of architecture, that you're talking about, the D7 to D upgrade, D8 upgrade, which is
Yes.
not the D8 to D9 upgrade. That was a proper migration, and that took 18 months. And those are migrating sites. So let's be clear. You had used the word sites. I want to be clear. It's content, moving content from one format within the CMS to another. And I agree, Corey. I'm not minimizing that could be a lot of work. I just want to be clear for everybody that we are not migrating whole sites, but actually having to change how the content's being managed in the CMS.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I really hope you folks appreciate what you just said is not necessarily, it doesn't matter to our team. It's a full, and you said 18 months, and I'm saying I need at least 6. So I'm not asking for what we had before, but I'm saying that we need minimum 6 months. And I'll just be honest, it's very concerning that the one thing that's being said over and over again is we don't have a timetable. And so, and I respect that. I just want you all to know that that gives us anxiety, or at least myself. So,
yeah, noted and understood. And I don't think I don't think your comments are surprising or out of order from our expectations. So apologies for the lack of specificity to create anxiety, but I don't think we're worlds apart in understanding how you're seeing it, Corey.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I've got another question here in the room. Becky, go ahead.
Okay.
This is Becky again. So I think what, to summarize sort of everyone's concerns is, in addition to the work that Tyler did for our 7 to 8, all of us communications folks, when I was in communications, had to literally spend, it took me 6 months and 40 hours a week minimum on the tax website, going page by page by page to clean up the content after the migration. And that was full force 6 months of my time. And so that's, I think, the big concern is that, like, I mean, the tax website's only grown, the DMV website's only grown. You know, we have DNR in the room here, their sites are also very large. OIT's is kind of largish, but I'm not the direct manager of that anymore. And I think the main concern is that even though it is a content thing, it will take a large level of effort in order to do that. And so if there's a way to automate this process, we would like you all to pursue it.
If I may just say that this feedback is not lost on us. We also have a few sites that we manage that are medium size, and these are the things that we are experiencing as well whilst we're learning D10 to teach you all D10. So we also have content that we're managing, and we want for this change to be one that we're collaborating on and that we are mindful of your feedback because we're experiencing something similar. We have sites that we have to move over. We have to learn D10. We have to teach you all D10. We have to continue to iterate D10. But I just want for you to know that you're not going to be alone, because the purpose of having those bi-weekly touches is so that we could work through this together, because the feedback that it was different from D8 to D9 has been heard. That feedback has been heard. And our focus is that as we are moving together through this change, is that we make it better than what it was from D8 to D9. And that is just me speaking candidly, because I am also a content manager that has to train 500 websites, right? So I am trying to make sure that I curate content, training resources that will make you have a better experience. So don't shy away from giving us this feedback. All feedback is good feedback. Sunny is taking notes. We will have a postmortem, and we will make sure that when we have these bi-weekly touches, they're not just Danielle. Hey, I was a public servant before being with Tyler, so I know what feedback is. So at any rate, I do understand the frustration. I could perceive the anxiety because we are also in the process of rebuilding our websites that will be the training resources for y'all. So any feedback that you have, we do have a feedback mechanism that is still on the CMS training site that you know today. We have a new site that we're building. Do we have additional questions or feedback for this part of the conversation? We do have a few more slides, and I want to be very mindful of time. And I want to let you know that this is not the last conversation that we're going to have about this Drupal 10 upgrade. Do we have any hands for pressing questions?
Yeah, I think Barry, did you answer that URL question in the chat that you don't have to change any URLs for changing content? That's right.
That's correct.
I also have a couple of questions from the chat that I took note of.
Thank you.
One that I saw was, when rows and cards are depreciated, what happens to the content if it's not migrated to the layout builder, is one that I did see. And I don't know if that's a question you want to say for the end or touch on.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is, as has been requested, is we need to have plenty of communication, visibility, and presentation of what the deprecation of rows and cards look like. To reiterate, we've been very much focused on D10, the upgrade, making sure that rows and cards not going away, which there's some confusion about, and that all our users can proceed on D10 when the move to production occurs towards the end of October. So when we get into the details of what it means to migrate off of rows and cards, We'll do that. Why don't we do that in a subsequent presentation so that everybody can ingest that clearly and cleanly. But again, understanding feedback from this call, understanding what our projections already were, that's not something that is an imminent requirement for Rosen cards to be disappearing in the near term. But we also acknowledge the need for specificity around that.
We do have a few more slides on the presentation. There are questions being answered at the same time. With your permission, I'm going to share my screen again. But if we needed to stop, by all means, let me know and we could stop and have the conversation. Okay. So I think I have lovely faces over here. And this is the slide that is just showing you how to access the new content type, which is called layouts in your back end or in the admin side. So what we will do is we will tap on the content module and you can add content and then it will be listed alphabetically right underneath your landing page, right? The shortcut, which I love a shortcut, is to hover over content to select content and then hover over layouts and tap there. Now, once you are in a layout, it will look, once you have created some layouts, they will be sortable or searchable on your results within your media library. You could do that by just organizing the entire bag of results, or you could just narrow it by using the content type layouts as your parameter. And it would just give you a list. These are the ones that I added last week. And those are the ones that we're going to start building in the new website, which is this training site right here. Additionally, when you are in a layout, this is basically what it will look like. You will have the similar ribbon that you have for editing your current pages, but you will have this new little layout option right here. Now, this page here was built with layouts. I'm going to show you how that looks in the back end. And I'm going to actually, if we had time, we could go ahead and just show you live. But this is what the back end will look like. And I have two options. If I wanted to add a section at the bottom, I will select add section, and then this little dialog will show up. And you could determine if you wanted a single, 2, 3, 4 columns, and then you could determine the width or the distribution of the blocks that are going to be populated in those sections. When you're adding a block to an existing layout, meaning that there was work that somebody else did and you're coming and revising it, you have the option of adding a block. And how you do that is instead of adding a section, you have this other option within the dotted line, which is the current section. Not sure if you can see it in this particular display, but this little dotted line is indicating that this is your current section. You can add a block to it. Again, the previous section, the previous slide, you can add a section and it will have its own little dotted line to indicate that spatial area, that region. But for here, we're just going to be adding a block. Okay, so I'm going to progress the slide real quick and I'm going to show you this is what the dialog looks like. You have two options. The first one is to create a content block and the other one is to create a simple block here. Now, if you were to click on create a content block, you will have these options right here for a basic block, an open embed. You can even do a layouts block. These are your options right there. Or if you wanted just to do a simple block and just add your code using your CK editor, which is similar to your WYSIWYG, you could do that here. This is similar to your basic card. It's just called a simple block. Now I'm going to progress the slide with your permission. And I wanted to talk quickly about the Drupal training sessions. And again, I think we have talked at length about it, but here is where they will be located in the new training session. I will have these available. I could share these offline if you wanted for me to send you an invite specifically to any of these sessions. But again, this is just a little snapshot of what it will look like. There is no need to register. You could just drop in and come to as many of these sessions as you want. You could share this with other content editors in your organization. And again, they're always going to be on a Wednesday at 10 so that we can kind of get some routine and kind of like have it as a normal function of what we do. Now, we did have some functionality and some security updates. The Drupal 9 core security update went to stage, and it won't go into production until next week, which is October the 2nd. And we had the accessibility change come in for the feature requests for the climate. So it's a resource search. And this one, if you have questions, let me know. Barry is available to speak to those. But before we go into questions and answers, our next power user group will be the 13th of December. These are always on quarterly basis, but this is not going to be instead of our training. This is in addition. And I'm just going to pause here so that we could continue conversation and having questions answered. Sorry that I went through those rather quickly, but if you wanted to see, I have a site to demo. If you wanted to see how it looks in real life, just if you're sick of it and don't want to see it, that's fine. But if you'd like to see it, I could show you what I have. Yes, I know. Okay, I see Mr. Wood has a thumbs up. I can see. All right, so if it's okay with you guys, let me just share, and I will share with you the little site that we built. All righty. So again, this here is Drupal 10. This is the alert type. We have a utility menu. Here is your Google search. This is where the logo will be populated. We still haven't figured out if we want to do a fancy new logo or just carry the one from before. When I mean the one from before, this is your current CMS, which goodness knows we have used this a gazillion times. But this is our current website. And this is our new CMS training website. You will notice that the main navigation remains the same. You have the ability to do dependencies here. This is a Rows and Cards built landing page. So you have a basic card and a media card. You have some icon cards here. And you have the ability to insert an open embed, or this one is actually an icon card for feedback. The footer remains the same. And then here you have that other page that I had demoed earlier. This is what the page looks like when it's a layout. You have the ability to edit. You could click on layout. And from the layout itself, as you scroll down a little bit, you could then choose, I'm sorry, I'm going too quickly, but you could choose to add a block, or alternatively, you could just go ahead and add a section. And that's what that dialog will look like. If you do decide to add a block, you could just add the block and those other dialogues are going to appear. That's the content block or the simple block. Now, I know this is the lightning speed. Let me close this out because I want to converse a little bit more. We have 15 more minutes, but this is again how your layout will look. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to open it up for conversation. It is real. The layouts are a real thing and they're not as intimidating as they sound. They're pretty straightforward once you get in there and start to play with it. Sunny and I have been building a bunch of pages. Brian has been building pages. The QA team has been just comparing D9 to D10, and it's going to be once we're on the other side, it's going to mitigate a lot of the issues that we currently see with rows and cards. Dave, I'm going to hand it over to you if you have any words for the group while we get any questions.
I think, Sunny, if you've been managing the questions, maybe we can take them through the ones that are in chat and then pick new ones up that come on the subject.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Let me, so some other questions, Barry has been helping me out answering some of these guys. I can see that I have a question about when we will see the layout option and be able to start converting. So I think that's a question more about when layouts will hit.
Yeah, so you'll have access to the layouts feature when your site goes to D10 in production. For those a few people who have requested to see D10 in stage, which again is not a requirement by any means, and it's available relatively limited basis. It's not for all our 500 websites. You could get in there and play around with it in the month of October, but we want to be clear, it's not necessary for you to do that. And so expect to see layouts side by side with rows and cards when D10 is in production. And then that'll start this period of, we're on D10, we're learning D10, we're learning layouts, and we're waiting to hear on when, sometime sufficiently in the future, rows and cards might be not available so that you can plan accordingly.
All right, and also from Danielle, will we still have rounded corner and element options and layouts? And can we get rounded corners on all the block types? I see a thumbs up.
She's asking, are uneven columns coming over?
The question was, are uneven columns coming over? The answer is yes. And Sunny, even if it's been answered in chat, maybe you could just kind of go through and just confirm the back and forth. I think that would be helpful to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also some answered questions. Let me scroll up a little bit. So will set improve crawl the same way on D10 as it did with D9? The answer to that was yes, since the URLs are not changing, it will crawl the same way. Also on here, sorry, I'm scrolling through them. We have uneven columns, and we are also have a question from Shannon. Can you confirm if the ADA will be improved in D10? Also, is it more mobile friendly?
So let's talk about accessibility for D10. So because we know that's everybody's focus right now on accessibility. So I'll try to answer this as simply as I can, which is we expect that D10, because it's an upgrade, will continue to provide a platform that's improving. Improving in terms of the capabilities of functions, the better presentation of material. We think layouts is a path towards better accessibility practices, et cetera. That said, I want to be clear. The upgrade to D10 does not remediate all open accessibility items, whether they're content or the ones that we're tracking on improving for the platform. So we very much expect, as I'm sure all of you do, is that in the coming 9 months or so, there is 9 to 10 months, and thereafter, there's a lot of work to get everything to be optimally accessible per Colorado's guidelines. And that is, as everybody I think on this call understands, that's very much our responsibility as it relates to the platform. And so admittedly, in the month of October and September and October, we haven't been tackling a lot of those remediations for accessibility that we're aware of. We've been focused on the D10 upgrade, but that's a big part of our work, as it is yours. After this upgrade is to get right back on that list and effectively burn them down. We go in there, figure out what we have to do to change in the platform to empower you to get an optimal result. And likewise, just like you have scores and you're looking at content and making changes to get an optimal result. And I think that process will continue. And just to tie it back to my last comment, that's a high focus, I know, for everybody for the next 9 months. But we ourselves do not envision that to be like somehow ending in 9 months. This is kind of the new world. A lot of catch up to do, and then a consistent amount of maintenance to do on an ongoing basis.
Awesome. Another question, can we copy other pages or templates and layouts?
Look to Barry or Cecilia for that one.
Yeah. Yes. Barry and I had this interesting conversation because you have the ability that you could create a layout template if you determine, and I think we spoke about this when we were going from organic to multi-site, that if you have a particular style or a particular I hate to use the word, but layout for your layout, you can save those as templates. Additionally, our developers have already templated a handful of layouts for the layouts. And I know that I'm saying layouts because that's the term we use in Drupal 9, but we have some templated opportunities for you to have content, and the duplicate feature is still there. So it's not like if you have one page, it's not like you cannot copy that page to duplicate, to save yourself some time. Barry will be more eloquent at describing this, but the answer is that yes, it's a feature that we have. And I think the benefit is that if you wanted to have the same feel, I think it was Oedit or someone who had, or the training site has like a side menu, and then they have the title and they have the same blocks on the site, and that repeats page after page after page. You could save that template and reuse it over and over and over. Barry, did I miss anything from our combo about templates?
No, you nailed it.
I hope.
You got it. Yep, you got it right.
Are there any additional questions about the layouts that we could answer, or about anything?
Let's see. Accordions, yes. Accordions will be accessible in D10. Yes. So like what Dave was saying, I am currently moving all the Drupal 9 changes into Drupal 10 we captured it all, but from the July release to this point in time, I'm moving that over, right? So there might be some gotchas that I missed, just putting it out there, but myself and Becky and Lori will be working together. I'm looking off the list that OIT has and the TAP team has provided me, so there's still that cadence of me updating it. That's not going away.
Yeah, let me do a clarifying comment on Barry's response there. So what we were trying to do too is not have some extended code freeze leading up to the production rollout, but effectively, as of right now, we're kind of in one, right? We're going to try to leave D9 alone after this week. We did, like Cecilia said, we had that release for security and that one other item. And then we want to leave D9 alone as much as we can to finish up D10 and be able to make sure that the upgrades work. As far as your content in the sites, when we say we're rolling you to production, right? Like it will make sure that whatever's in your site comes over to production. So there isn't the need, correct me if I'm wrong, Barry, but there isn't the need for you to stop managing content on D9 in October. Now, once we have a date, like you were asking about, Becky, where you say, hey, we're going to move you to production, it may make sense to say, why don't you hold off on updating content a day or two before that, so that you're just, everything's kind of staying the same. That's practice, but we didn't want there to be any kind of window where we couldn't touch D9 or you couldn't touch our content for an extended period of time. So I just want to be clear of that. We've been trying to keep it as current as possible.
That's correct, Dave.
I have a couple more questions. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I think we skipped the question about mobile friendly. Did we answer that? There was a question about mobile friendly that I saw flash through, but the answer is yes. And correct me if I'm wrong, Barry, Drupal was designed mobile, tablet, desktop, even though we designed desktop, tablet, mobile. So that is still true in Drupal 10. It is still going to be the same mobile friendliness. It will remain there. Sorry if I interrupted, Sunny.
Yes, for the admin side and the content user, or the when you're authenticated as an admin, it'll be mobile friendly. And then viewing content when you're just anonymous will be mobile friendly as well.
From Sonia, the question was, so there will be a substantial amount of time that will work side by side, and that's in reference to both layouts and cards.
Correct.
So the answer is yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you'll be able to. Yeah, they'll work side by side.
Perfect. Couple more questions from Francie and Cohen. Is it not an option to view the entire source code and copy paste it to expedite the migration process?
Yes, I tested that purposely, waiting for this phone call. So yes, if you have a page that you have a basic card and you have the ability to click on source, you could copy that. I am old school. I drop it into Notepad and then I copy it from Notepad onto the new custom block, and it came beautifully. I actually tested that with the accordions because there were 500 sites that I didn't want to type over. So I went into the CMS existing website, got the list of all sites, went into source, copied those accordions and popped them over into CK editor with an accordion, and they came. So yeah, the answer is yes to that. You could copy. Go ahead. There's a question.
Yes, this is Francie with DOR, just to follow up on that. So I know you can do that per card and per element that's within the cards. I meant to view the entire source code for the whole page. Is there a way to just copy the entire source code for the whole page and then pop that over into a new source code on the new platform?
Barry, you want to take that one?
No, that won't be possible because it uses the WYSIWYG editor, so it's not able to copy all of it. If you right-clicked and view source and copied it all, and then pasted it in a WYSIWYG, it would just be showing in that block, unfortunately.
Awesome. And from Cohen, accessibility will indeed be a significant focus for all of us, especially as the deadline approaches. The upgrade to D10, especially with the eventual switch from cards to layouts, friends to take up a significant amount of time. He's wondering if there is a way to predict how much labor will be involved with this.
So if the question is if there's a way to predict how much labor could be involved with moving from rows and cards to layouts within the platform post the upgrade to D10. And so I think what we'll take that question back and put it into our preparation for how we're helping you guys understand, how we're helping everybody understand what's to be expected for when rows and cards would go away. The timing, you know, with the technical options that we may be able to come up with to ease that, which is a high priority, the training and support, and then of course the estimating as well, just to kind of give you more tools and capability to project what that's going to mean for you to manage your site going forward. So I can appreciate why you're asking, and I think our answer back is taking a lot of this feedback today and figuring out how we can put together as much as much mitigation of the lift as we can, but then also as much preparation, training, support options to help with that. And I'm sorry to say more to come on that topic. It's just that's where we are on D10 first, and then we'll get to rows and cards. But we hear you in that rows and cards really needs to stay around for quite some time for you to be able to manage that transition.
Thank you.
We are currently 1 minute before time. I hate to be that person, but we are going to be needing to wrap up soon. One thing I do want to reassure you is that we're going to be communicating. We're going to be meeting every other week. It's to show you layouts, but this feedback, if you wanted to share feedback in those sessions, feel free to do that. These are going to be recorded. Everything is going to be transparent. As you present and find things that need fixing, send those my way, and I will just go ahead and put those in our board so that we could continue. Yes, but we're at time. I really appreciate all of this very, very good conversation. We're going to be having this recording and the notes and all of the questions transcribed. We could just give it a few days for the Microsoft Teams to do its thing, and I will have these to you hopefully by Friday. But again, I look forward to seeing you guys starting on the 11th every other week until, I don't know, March or whenever you guys are sick and tired of this. So thank you so much for everybody for showing up. And again, for those who came to 1999 Broadway, thank you so much for coming in. And I'm going to turn it back to Dave and leadership for final words. But again, if you have anything, reach us at partnersupport@www.colorado.gov. Dave.
Yeah, let me just add to that. If you have concerns specifically about the rows and cards being deprecated at some point in the future, what that needs, like the feedback today, you can send that to partner support, put that in the title, right? So that you're saying, hey, I just need to make sure my concerns or my feedback or my suggestions are heard. That would be helpful. That way we can pull that out and say, okay, that is feedback. We'll handle it and we'll store it. And we're going to track that. Obviously, we have
Yeah.
work to do to kind of be able to plan that out. I do regret, and I want to extend my apologies to everybody to not have more detail about what that looks like, because I appreciate the anxiety it creates. But as I said, it's not imminent. And what we're hearing from you today supports, that's why we have a power users group, right? So that you can speak on behalf of everybody that's out there, not just yourselves, of like, hey, this is what it means to manage a site on this platform and what changes mean for us. So that's hugely valuable. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it. And it's been heard. I appreciate your patience as we look to say, hey, if it's going to be realistically at this point in December or January, we say, hey, let's talk about rows and cards going away and what that's going to look like. It'll probably be on that time frame. We're going to be very focused on D10, getting that done, making sure we can support you with that and anything that comes up around it. And then we're very cognizant of accessibility and what that means for all of you right now. So I just wanted to make sure we're reiterating that point. We're very much focused on accessibility too. We have very similar obligations on our end to collaborate with you and to OIT. So as that becomes more acute, if you will, in the coming months, we look forward to working with you, collaborating with you, and hopefully helping everybody in responding to that, external force. So all for the good of Coloradans, which we're excited about, even though it is a significant hurdle to clear. So thank you, everybody. And please don't be shy with your reaching out to us directly and through partner support as needed on these comments, questions, feedback. We're here. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.